Hello everybody, welcome to English 231. We're going to be studying early American literature in this class. My name is Susan Austin. I work full-time at JCC and I've been here about 20 years. I teach English 111, which is the freshman comp class, English 112, which is the research argumentative class, and sometimes I get the pleasure of teaching this class. I really enjoy it. I think it's a lot of fun to explore how people wrote in the early American times and how they sort of shaped our country at the time. Without their letters and diary entries and some of their fiction work, some of their poetry, we would not have a clear view of how life was at that time. And another thing I try to do is I try to get perspective from all the people who lived in this country during this time. So with each unit of study, I try to bring in diverse people. I try to use Native Americans, the white settlers, the slaves or free African Americans, and then also the women. The women didn't get as big of a perspective at the time, but we did have some writers who were published and some who, like Emily Dickinson, who hid away some of her work, but it was found later. So we do have some perspective from the women's point of view. So I try to include that so that you see everyone's perspective during that time in history. And we will start out with the Native American perspective. So I just think it's really cool to get a sense of how life was at that time. And living in America, some of the things did happen close by in Jamestown. So we'll be looking at some of that as well. Jamestown, Virginia, not North Carolina. So to start off with, I just wanted to show some parts of the course. Some of you may be accustomed to Blackboard and some may not. JCC uses Blackboard, but I realize that some of you may be taking the class as a summer option, and you may attend another school that may use a different setup for their online classes. So hopefully this will be easy to navigate. If you ever have any questions, you can contact me or Jolt. There are also some really excellent YouTube videos on navigating Blackboard, so I think that would be a great option if you're not quite sure how things are working in this structure. So to start with, I just wanted to show you announcements. I do have that first on the list. You'll hear me mention this little blue bar as either the navigation guide, the navigation bar, or the left side menu. I catch myself sort of mentioning it in different ways sometimes, but this is sort of your menu of options in Blackboard. And then whatever you choose will be featured here on the right hand side. So with announcements, I do try to post one on Monday. This week I did a brief one, and then I did another one. So many weeks I'll do multiple announcements. I always ask students to try to check in daily, much like you would with social media. A lot of us are accustomed to checking our text and Snapchat and TikTok and sometimes Facebook or Instagram, and then we forget the important things like emails for work or emails for school and the announcement page for Blackboard. So I do expect you to check this daily, even though I may not update it daily, but since you know that I'm going to do it on Monday, but I also want you to check it throughout the week because there might be something that I add or something that I put in there that would help you do better on an assignment. So this is my way to communicate with you. So check into it often. With each announcement, I usually do click on the email feature where it'll email it to you as well. But if you're not checking the Blackboard account every day and you're not checking your email, you may miss something. But generally on Mondays, it's when I sort of lay everything out for you. You see what your tasks are for that week, and I give you the deadlines. The first week is always different, and I wanted to explain why. Our registrar's office requires us to give our online students an enrollment verification quiz. This is the way that we show that the student became active in the class. Now, you may have checked into the class, you may have read the syllabus, and you may have done some other things, but until you complete that enrollment verification quiz, I cannot turn you in as attending officially in the class. So this quiz is not counted for a grade. It's just counted for your initial enrollment, your initial entrance into the course, and I need you to do that. So that's why I made that a priority the first day. And if you didn't get to that task, you need to do it as soon as possible. As soon as you watch this video, get off the video and then go take the enrollment verification quiz, and you'll see that it's sort of third in line here. I also have the syllabus here, and different instructors handle it differently. I know that at JCC our syllabi are standardized, so they're going to look a lot of the same, but please note that each of us put our own spin on the information in our syllabus. We show you how we grade. We show you the percentage for the assignments. I work on a 60-40 split for the most part, but that is explained in the syllabus. And just some of our things that we look for with assignments, how we grade. Like with my case, I do not like late assignments. I just feel like I give you the deadline. It's unfair for you to turn your assignment in late, and then I have to find time to grade it after I've already graded the rest of the assignments. That's sort of impeding on my personal time with my family, and so I don't want you to put your requirements of time in place of my time when I'm not at work, where you're asking me to find additional time to grade something. If something happens that's out of your control, and this would be something like a hospital stay, a car accident, a very extreme illness, if you'll communicate that to me, I do try to work with students, but it's not a guarantee, and some students will, just email me and say, hey, I'm having a bad day, can I turn it in later? And that's just not really a valid reason for not turning in an assignment, especially if you've had the whole week to work on it and it's Sunday night. So I would say keep a paper calendar if you feel comfortable with that. You can print them off for free online. Most of us, or many of us, have smartphones, and there's a calendar there. You could set alarms or put in your deadlines for the class there. And in that Monday announcement, every Monday I do put in the deadlines for the week. So like I said, for this week I did sort of a beginning of the week thing, and then I did a midweek thing because I was hoping that you would go ahead and get those first few tasks accomplished. One of those was to read the syllabus and then to mark the mark reviewed button. That is the way I get my acknowledgement that you've read it. Some instructors ask for a paper copy, and I just don't do that. I have you punch the button to acknowledge that you read it, and then at the beginning of next week you'll get sort of a syllabus course quiz. It'll be about 10, maybe 12 questions, and it's very easy. It's an easy A, but on there's another question where you just click and say, yes, I read the syllabus last week, and I understood it. And then there's some pretty simple things that go along with this video and some of the things that you'll navigate this week. And I usually put that either at the end of the first week or beginning of the second week, just to give you a chance to get familiar with the course before you're asked to answer questions about it. But that's the way I get your acknowledgement that you understood the syllabus. If you have any questions about the syllabus, please don't hesitate to ask. I'll be glad to answer those. I also pulled out some general policies for you, but this does not replace the syllabus, so make sure that you read through that. Okay, going back to the bar, if I can get my cursor over there. The next thing is I have a My Instructor tab. You see me here, but I also have a picture there, just so you, and that's my dog Piper. It's actually my son's dog, but he went away to college, and so Piper has sort of integrated into our everyday life, and we love her a lot. So she's 3, but she's in that picture with me. There's some information here about my background, where I live. I will tell you that during the summer and much of the year, I do commute a little bit between Johnston County and the beach because my family owns a home there, and I am an only child. My dad is an older man, widower, and I help him with some things at that home, and I go back and forth a lot during the summer. But we have internet there. This past weekend, there were a lot of storms, and there was a little bit of a problem with connectivity when I was trying to do some things, but before I go back, I'm going to check in with Spectrum and make sure that we're fixing that, because it did interfere with posting a few things this past weekend. So, but anyway, I wanted to give you a little background on me. I come from an academic family. I went to East Carolina. My daughter went to East Carolina and went to grad school in Clemson, and she now works at Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia. She does the ambassador and tour guide office, so she manages that, and she is a product of JCC. She started off as a middle college student. So if you are in a CCP class, know that that really sets you up for great things. Because she got a full scholarship to Clemson for grad school, and I think a lot of that came from her time, as a 15, 16-year-old, 17-year-old in the college classes. She really had a good foundation for her academics. So anyway, I wanted to emphasize that there are not going to be a lot of people on campus at JCC for much of the summer. We're still under the stay-at-home order. I know some of that may change week by week over the summer, and I know that all of the departments are fully staffed. Some people may be answering your questions from home. We are trying to offer Skype, Zoom, telephone calls, anything we can do to make it a personal experience. As the summer progresses, maybe more offices may open, but I'm not in charge of that, so I don't want to speak to that. But I know that I will not be on campus. I will be working off campus, and so the Smith 146, I will not be there this summer. I will be glad to call you. I'll be glad to do a Zoom session with you or a Skype session if you want to do a face-to-face kind of office meeting. And then towards the end of this week, I'm going to post a Remind code. Remind is an app where you can communicate through text message, and then I can send text messages to everyone who has signed up for it. It is optional, but I think it's a great tool to just get quick information and to ask quick questions. So hopefully some of you will sign up for that, and we can communicate that way as well. Okay, so the discussion board this week, you have two. I've tried to space them out. For many of you in online classes, you're accustomed to doing an introduction, so this is no different. I did give you some prompts up here at the top, and hopefully you'll answer those. You are required to do a 350-word post to answer the prompts, and then 250-word responses. I do require you to write as you would in any college assignment with standard written English, no text messaging shortcuts or any slang types of things. And I want you to take it seriously and show rigor for your academic course. Since these are graded and since they do count as your attendance, you want to really shine there so you get the full credit. The second discussion board that you were given this week involves a reading in the textbook, and then I added a little thing because I'm really fascinated with Native American creation stories. I did study Native American literature in my grad school courses, and I just love their stories, and I love their storytelling traditions, and I think it's just very good to explore that as you explore the ones that are in the textbook as well as the one you will find, and I'm fine if you do it through a Google search. You can either do it through a scholarly search or a Google search. There are many creation stories out there that you can read for many tribes. If you know that there's a family member or a segment of your family that was part of the Native American history, look for that tribe to see what kind of creation story they had, and compare it to what was in the book. But I'm fascinated by their storytelling and their traditions, and I'm also fascinated by some of the similarities to other religious stories, and I would be interested to see what you find with the similarities and also the differences. With Native American storytelling, there is a lot of what maybe some people would call supernatural elements, and so it's interesting how they integrate those into their storytelling. They're a lot of fun to read. So that's what you're going to be doing for the second discussion board. I hope you enjoy that. Most of them are very quick to read. They're short because for the most part, the Native Americans, they had big festival type things. And when they told stories, they were verbal stories, and they were handed down in a verbal way. And then around the 1920s in America, scholars started researching and recording some of these stories. So when they recorded them, I think they got shorter for the most part. So a lot of them were just a page or two long. So it shouldn't be that much reading. Okay, so we'll see what you do with that as well. I love seeing what people have to say about the Native American creation stories. Okay, so I have your textbook in here. Some people have asked me if they could order it online. We always say our JCC bookstore does a great job of supplying books to you, but how you get your textbook is up to you. I think it's a great idea to get the correct edition so that you have all the stories that I will be assigning out of the textbook. And you should get this, more than likely you would get it in 2 volumes, and it's just so you don't have to carry around a really thick book. They've kind of halved it, almost half, so that you just have 2 smaller books to deal with at a time. I did put in the Little Seagull Handbook at JCC. This is our standard handbook. If you've gone to another university or college and you're just taking this during the summer, whatever handbook your school uses would probably be fine. I just wanted you to have something to reference for MLA formatting, and also just grammar, mechanics, punctuation, things like that. If you're writing a paper for me, this is a writing intensive class, so I think having a handbook helps. In the resources section, I've also linked you to the Purdue Online Writing Lab, which is managed by the Purdue University, and it's full-time, like English people update it all the time, so that's also a good resource if you don't have a handbook. The handbook is not required, but if it's something that you've already purchased, know that you could use it for this class as well, or any handbook that you have from another class. There are going to be weekly assignment folders. I wanted to speak to this because, as you can see, there are a lot of weekly folders down through here, but I only have week 1 live to you, and that's because I don't want students to work ahead. I try my best to keep everyone on the same page. You have a week to do the assignments, or it might be a week and a day if I stretch it into the next week, but I don't want you working ahead. This is not an independent study. We do have to keep attendance, and the way I keep attendance is showing that you're active in the course that week. And so if I would allow students to work ahead or work behind a week or whatever, it's not, it doesn't work well for the structure for attendance and record keeping. And we are audited, we are internally audited by our registrar's office and other offices. We are audited by the state to make sure that we're teaching the classes that we advertise that we're teaching. And we're also accredited, so when our accreditation board would come through, things like not taking attendance or not having good record keeping can't hurt us. So we like to keep things rolling correctly. So, all right. So this first week I'll try to usually put like a picture or something. I try to keep it somewhat entertaining or creative. I felt like this was sort of our origins week. It's our origin into the class, and then we're studying the Native American origin stories. So I just kind of found a picture that was origins to remind you of that. I usually try to put the dates up there. Many times if Sunday, like in this case, is the 24th, and a deadline then goes into the next week, just know that I've given you a grace day to get something done. It's not that I've forgotten what day it is. Okay. In this case, I gave you sort of an overview of the first week's assignments. Generally, this information will appear in the announcement as well on Monday, and then I'll just sort of copy it over into that week's folder. I also gave you a link into the discussion board. This is something I do as a courtesy. It's not required of me. I just do it because I think that it helps you just have one click within the same folder. If there would ever be a week where you have an assignment and there's not a link, you can usually go over to this left side menu and find it on your own. But I try my best to link as much as I can just to help you find success with your assignments. So in this case, this week, most of your assignments are in the discussion board, as they will be many weeks. Then you just use your textbook in addition to that. Okay, so the course navigation guide. I wanted to go over this with you really quickly, and I'm not going to read it to you, but I just want to show you what's in here. We try to pull out some key things for quick reference here. This information is also in the syllabus, but just for ease of obtaining the information, if you forget something, you can go to the course navigation guide and get a quick little snippet of that information. One of the things I wanted to point out to you is your discussion board information is laid out here. So if you forget what you're supposed to do for the discussion board, come to the course navigation guide, and I explain how many words minimum for each post, how many words minimum for each response. You have to do a 350 word minimum for each post and 150 word minimum for each response. I will say, if you've already done your 2 responses for the week, but then you see another student that you want to comment on their post, your third one would not have to be 150 words because you've already filled the minimum requirement for the 2 responses that I'm looking for. And then if I see you've done extra work, honestly, I'm super impressed, and I love that, and I keep sort of a mental note in my mind that student, hey, he always or she always does extra, but it doesn't give you more than 100 on that. One thing I don't let you do is so I have the 150 word minimum for each response. I've had some students do, say, 4 responses and maybe 75 words each or some kind of math. I teach English, I do not teach math, and I'm not going to constantly do math on word count. So you need 2 responses that are 150 words each, and then anything extra you do can be any amount of words you want them to be because you've already met the minimum. But I'm not going to subdivide those responses. And I've had students try to kind of come back and say, hey, you didn't give me full credit for that response, but I did 5 of them. If you counted up all those words, that would be the 300 words for all of them. I'm not doing that math. So know that you have to do 150 words for each response to the 2 required that I have you do. Another thing, and I've laid it out here, I'm not going to read all this to you, but in a nutshell, your initial post is worth 60 points, and then I've sort of subdivided some of the ways I grade it here in the navigation guide, and then each response is worth 20 points each. If you would forget to post, then you've lost 60 points. I'm not going to do math on that either. If you post a day late, you're not going to get 10 points off. You're just going to lose the points. So make sure that you're meeting those deadlines. If it's a minute after 11:59, to be honest with you, I do not worry about that. I will go ahead and give you credit. But if it's the next day or 2 days late, then you've missed your opportunity to get those points. If you don't use standard written English, if you use a lot of slang or text speak or shortcuts or symbols or things like that, you're going to lose points because this is an English class. It's a writing intensive class. And while I'm grading you for attendance here, I'm also grading you for your writing ability and your college level responses. So you can read through there to see how I do the different points. You do have a resources tab, and I've tried to put as much as I can think to put in there, and I may add to it as we go. I may realize that you need more resources, and we'll go over that in a minute. I have a 3 before me document. This is embedded in the discussion board as well because I have a conversation cafe where you can post questions that anyone can answer. Any student in the whole class can answer it. But many of the instructors at JCC have started to implement a 3 before me policy, and that's just because we have a lot of students who don't read the assignments. They don't take the time to take notes on the information we give them, and then they expect us to be a 24/7 helpline, and that's not really what an instructor should be for you. You should go to the instructor with the things that you've checked previous to asking the question, and then that still doesn't make sense. And that's perfectly okay because I love a good question, but if you ask me how many pages a essay has to be, then I'm going to reference you back to the assignment sheet that I gave you with the page count requirements on it. So I am not your personal concierge, like you would have at a hotel or something where I'm just going to fill every need, because part of being a college student is seeking the information yourself. So the 3 before me concept is that before you ask your instructor a question, and I would really encourage you to use this as an employee, as a family member, or as a student. I mean, how many of y'all, especially now that we've been a little bit quarantined with our family members, how many times have you had a family member stand in the middle of the living room or the kitchen looking for something, but they really haven't looked for it. You know, where are the socks? Where is the spatula? Where's the pan? And they've never even opened a cabinet or a drawer or anything to find it. And they're just wanting someone in the house to locate it for them so they don't have to do the hard work and the heavy lifting. So this is sort of the same concept here. So the first level of 3 Before Me would be to focus and concentrate harder. Think about what materials your instructor has given you, what assignment guidelines. I've opened up a bunch of resource tabs and things for you in this course, so you could certainly look there first before you ask a question to see if that information is available. I would say that, you know, most of the time with my assignment sheets, I've laid everything out. I've laid out how many pages it has to be, the formatting, just anything and everything. Oftentimes I'll give you the prompts very clearly laid out that you could almost outline the paper from those prompts. And I try to be very specific even with my discussion board prompts so that you can go through and sort of see what I'm asking you to do with that assignment. After you've sort of looked within yourself and looked within the resources that you have explored already, go to the actual resources. Maybe revisit the assignment sheet, revisit the folder for the week, or a handout or a link. So you can look at your classwork, your homework, worksheets, textbooks, the assignment board, the discussion board. You can post a question there to your classmates. Hey, I don't understand this assignment. Do you understand it? And also, YouTube is a great resource. If there's something technical that you don't know how to do, I guarantee you if you go to YouTube, there's going to be some sort of tutorial there that helps you. I use it all the time. Years ago, our refrigerator broke. We couldn't figure out what was going on with the ice maker. I looked up a YouTube video, and there it was. There was a manufacturer defect with that particular refrigerator, and someone had gone through the steps to show how to fix it. So most of the time you can look to your own resources that are available with the internet, with your own class, in your textbook, in your handbook that you're using, and find an answer to something, especially with formatting. A lot of students, whether it's MLA or APA formatting, they'll email me, how do I cite this source? And they've never once looked at the Purdue OWL site. They haven't looked at the handbook. And that's part of being a college student. That's why when you get that degree, someone knows that you're able to solve problems on your own. You can also ask a friend, and I would say start with the friends in your classroom. Now, you may not know them personally right now, but it's a good idea to get to know your classmates, maybe reach out to them. I'm apologizing for my dogs misbehaving. They're like children. They do it every time anybody gets online. But try to reach out, and you might in the introduction see some common ground, like maybe you went to the same high school or you live in the same community, and you could reach out and sort of work together in a seated class. That happens a lot of times because students sit together. In an online class, that doesn't always happen. Next week, we're going to start some Zoom sessions, so hopefully if you attend those, you'll start to make some friendships on the Zoom sessions, and you'll be able to ask each other questions. Also, I will say the Zoom sessions are a great time to attend class, and I'll answer the questions for you because we're sort of live. We're looking at different handouts. I can pull things up and share my screen, so that's another way to do a 3 Before Me, even though me would be there with you to help you. All those things are sort of explained here, but it's a great concept. If you employ this in your life, you'll kind of be a better human. You'll be a better employee, a better family member, because you're not always just waiting for someone else to do something for you. So that's that. Plagiarism, I will likely before the first writing assignment post some videos and some information about plagiarism. The bottom line is don't plagiarize. Do not copy. We will be researching things based on the readings that we're exploring. And if you bring in a concept from a literary review, or if you bring in a concept from a scholarly article, you have to cite it. And you have to have in-text citations, and you have to have a a citation in the works cited page. So if you don't do that, your paper's plagiarized. And I have a lot of students turn in a beautifully written paper with a works cited page, but there are no in-text citations. So in essence, that whole entire paper is plagiarized. So be careful with that. But I will supply some things for you once we write that first paper. The other thing I'll tell you is I'm asking you to cite your discussion board post and your responses. So if you go and find any information and in another location, you have to cite it. And if you use anything out of the textbook, I want you to cite the textbook. The good thing about the textbook is you can just keep copying and pasting the textbook citation over and over. But if you use another source, I want you to cite that. That's just good academic practice. Okay, there's some other things on here about the grade book, attendance, Safe Assign. Safe Assign is our plagiarism checker, and for every written assignment you do that's turned in, not the discussion boards, but the things that are turned in for grading with the major grading assignments, it'll be checked for plagiarism. So make sure that you are giving credit to the places where you got the information. Quizzes, you will have quizzes on the readings, quizzes on the concepts. I don't accept late work. It takes me away. If I've already graded a set of papers and then you turn it in a week late, then you're asking me to find time to grade something that you didn't find time to do in a timely manner. So I do not generally accept late work. Sometimes if there's a storm or if there's something, I know last semester during our stay-at-home orders, I tried to show some grace to some students because just they didn't have a computer that was working or they were trying to get internet in their home. But right now everybody should be pretty much settled with that. Let me know if anything unusual happens for you. I did have a student in the hospital last semester, and he did reach out to me to tell me he was in the hospital, and that gave me sort of a clearance to help him in that way. But for the most part, I need your assignments in on time, and I do have the right to refuse an assignment if it's not turned in on time. I don't do math. I'm not going to sit there and take 10 points off here and 5 points off there. I'm not doing that. Either it's there or it's not. I'll either grade it or I won't. So if you want to play the game of will she or won't she, you can do that, but you may get a 0 and you'll have to accept that. It is part of my syllabus. It's part of my standard. If we have set something up previous because of a catastrophic event in your life or something that you could not plan for, I may allow a day or two grace period. Also, if there would be anything like a storm, electricity outage in the greater Johnston County area or something, I would probably on my own extend a deadline just for the whole class. Communicate with me, email me when we do the remind. You can text me, ask for a Skype session or ask for a Zoom session. And once I start giving the Zoom meeting invites, attend the Zoom sessions. That's a great way for me to get to know you and for you to get to know me. Alrighty, so the next thing is resources, and I've tried to give you a link to Smart Thinking when you're doing a writing assignment. JCC has partnered with the Smart Thinking folks to offer tutors to you, and to be honest with you, for the summer, I'm not sure how they're doing the academic skills tutors because they don't have people on campus right now. But the Smart Thinking, there are master's degree and PhD English professionals who will help you with your paper. You upload the paper, they give you notes, and it's line-by-line notes. It's great. It's as if they've graded it for you before you turn it in to me. They'll give you suggestions for editing, and it's wonderful. I've seen some of the reports, and it's a great thing to do. Please keep in mind that if you send something to Smart Thinking, it takes 24 to 48 hours to get the document returned. So if you're someone who waits till the last 10 minutes before you turn something in, you're not going to get that feedback. It's not live in the sense that you just show it to them and then 5 minutes later you get a response. You have to post it. It goes into a queue for production, and then someone picks it up to review it from their tutoring. I think people just work from home and the tutors review the papers. I do have a link, and then I have information on how to use it. I've also linked you to the JCC Career Center. Some people are out of a job right now, or some people are looking to change jobs. They are working from home, and they are offering services, and they'll help you with your resume. They'll probably have some interactive sessions this summer to help you. Here's some resources for the librarians, and just ways to write, narrowing topics, how to search for certain things. So you can use this link for that. I have a Norton Review site here, and then some additional texts that we may use this semester. I just kind of threw them in there just as an option if we need them later. And then the other thing I want to show you is I do have some notes in here that you can use as you study. So as we study things, I'll just click into this really quickly. This is from the beginning, where we are now, to the 1700s, and it just sort of takes the text and gives you some bulleted notes. I think this is a great way for an overview, maybe to help to review for a test when we have the we will have a time period test, and we'll have author tests. So this should help you with that. So this is from the textbook authors, so it should go in line with what you're reading. Okay, I think that's about it. There is a link to your grades. There's a link to your email. There's a tools area. I do want to show you this really quickly. Let's say you want to reach out to your classmates. You need help with something, and you don't know your classmates yet. If you go here, scroll down to send email. If you click on that, it will take you to your classmates, and you just would go all student users, all users including me, if you want to send it to everyone in the class. Or let's say you know someone you went to high school with is taking the class as well, you could select users. So there are lots of options here for emailing classmates. And I think that is about it. There are lots of resources here throughout the time we spend together. I may add to those as I feel you need them. Hopefully this has helped. I'm sorry it went on so long, but I wanted to kind of take you through the process of succeeding for the class. And hopefully we'll have fun. Think of it like a book club that you're getting college credit for. And hopefully we'll have a good time discussing the readings, and you'll get a nice little college credit for this time. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. I will be answering emails this afternoon, and I look forward to talking to you on the discussion board as well. Have a great day.